Alright guys, so what's going on? Basically today, I'm going to be tapping my turbo on this part right here with this nipple for my boost line, just so it cleans things up a bit and I don't have a line running all over for the wastegate. And I'm also going to be welding the internal wastegate into here because I'm going to be running an external wastegate from now on. I've got to get a new blade for the inside compressor housing because the blade chewed up a rock and I bent it back into place, but then after I bent it back into place it kind of made it fragile and ended up breaking the tip off. So I could run it for the beginning of the year and it'll be fine. It's not hitting or anything, but I'm just going to go ahead and order a new blade. It's only like 40 bucks. So in the meantime I'm going to tap this for boost, and I'm going to weld the external wastegate in here, which is over here, and you can't really see it. I'll see if I can get it out. Yeah, so there it is. I'm going to cut this off here, so I want this to be almost flush. I'm going to cut this off as flush as I can, and then I'm going to obviously weld that shut and pop this out. I'm going to grind it down on the one side where it meets this lip here, just so I can make sure the weld's not high to the point where it's affecting putting this actual exhaust back on, because I still will be using this. It sits like this in the car and it's an up pipe, so it works good even though it's heavy as hell. So yeah, gonna get that cut off, and then I just gotta, like I said, make sure it clears this corner. If it doesn't, I can Dremel it a tiny bit on an angle to make it clear the welds, but I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend doing the flap and grinding the flap down and grinding the weld down afterwards if you have to. Try not to grind any of the actual parts itself, because you don't want to work or anything. And before we weld this, obviously you're going to see in the video, I'll be heating it up with a torch really hot. First, what I'll do is I'll heat it up with a torch just lightly in the area, get it tacked in 4 spots after I clean it up, of course, and then get the flap on there, and I'm going to weld the middle hole in the flap off of this. So then when I put the flap on, I'm going to cover this so no weld specks can get in there or nothing. And yeah, and we'll be good to go. Get that welded and see how she turns out. And get that tap and see how it turns out. But right now, I am going to go inside, make a quick coffee, because it is freezing out here still and it's still getting warm. So yeah, I'm going to go make a quick coffee, come back out, and we will start on the exhaust housing first. So we'll see you guys in a few. Alright guys, so before I go in, I got the wastegate flap itself off. I just got to weld like around that little spot there so the back part doesn't fall out. I'm going to weld that where it's sitting, and then this is all cleaned up and ready to go the best I could do it. That's off, that's off. I just got to grind that down and weld that. So I'm going to weld that quick, and then I'm going to grind that down quick and weld that quick. And then once that's done, we can weld the actual flap onto the turbo manifold, which I will probably record that part, and I may record me welding these parts quick. So we'll be back once we get those 2 parts welded. Alright guys, so if you look, I ended up putting a piece of pin in here because the hole's a little too big to weld. So what I did was I just took a piece of a piece of this off with the grinder, and obviously cut that down flat like I wanted it. And now we're just going to weld that up right quick. These wire brushes are just the easiest way to quickly clean off the weld, or a wire wheel even. But yeah, if you look, you can kind of get this to focus properly. There we go. So you can see it's just a small bead around, and it'll be good to go. So that's pretty much that, and we will be back when we start welding this. Alright guys, so I got it welded. This welded like shit compared to the last cast I welded, but it's really cold out. It's a flux core welder, and I actually didn't preheat the metal just because I wanted to see if it will crack at all if I didn't preheat it. Now it seems to have a good seal even though the welds are shit, so I'm just going to clean it up a bit more with the grinder, and the casting fits over it and everything. So that's pretty much sealed now, and then yeah, be good to go. I might throw one more bead around it if I can. I'll see what happens. So I'll show you guys once I get it completely finished, and then we'll move on to tapping the turbo for the vacuum line. Alright guys, what's going on? It's a little bit later in the day, but I had to do some stuff. I had a dentist appointment I had to go to, so yeah, I got it grinded down. I'll show you that now, and it's not the prettiest, but I did check it over and it is sealed good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the car. When I first started with this turbo on and everything finished, I'm going to start it with no up pipe on, so I can make sure 100% there's no leaks coming out of it, and that it's spinning at idle like it should be with the closed wastegate, or the welded wastegate. But yeah, here it is. So you can see it doesn't look the greatest. Like, the best weld was around this whole side. Yeah, so you can see here that was the best, where it welded the best was around here. So it did get good penetration around there, and even though it's like kind of cratered, you can see a little bit there and kind of cratered in there, it's all actually filled, and there's no actual pinholes that I can find yet. But I will start it with the, like I said, with the housing off and make sure. So yeah, anyway, that's pretty much that, and we're gonna go to tapping this now. Just gonna be a little careful with this. So I did put the turbo back together today, and the bearings still don't have any play. Like, it's mint, but you can, if I can find the one blade. Oh, it's right there actually. If you look right there by my finger, that's the chip blade, and it's just got a small chip out of it, so I could still run it like that, but I'm not going to take any chances. I don't want to lose any boost or anything. And the new blade's only $40, so we'll probably order that in a rebuild kit, just because I did notice that when I was looking at it, on the inside there was a little bit of oil leaking out the exhaust side. And sorry I'm taking so long to explain this, but there's a little bit of oil leaking out the exhaust side, and I could see behind the one screw on the intake side that it might be starting to leak. Although, like, when you look at it together, you could never notice the leak. But the exhaust side, what's another thing with these GM8 diesel turbos, what you want to do is you want to make sure when you put your housing back in, so when you get this back in and you push it in, it kind of like clips in, and the O-rings on these actually look like a little piston ring, like they're round and they got a little gap in between. You want to make sure that gap is at the top, so where your oil's feeding in, and I think before I might have had it at the bottom possibly, and that could have been why it's leaking. I won't know until I start it again, but if I do notice smoke again, then I will obviously order a rebuild kit and rebuild it. I'm probably just going to order one at the beginning of the race year, so I have it, and then as soon as anything happens I can rebuild it, and I won't have to worry about it smoking or anything like that. But as of right now, I already know that it's not smoking very much at all, so I think that flipping the washer, or making sure it was facing the nipple up there, is fine. I've got to change this to a bigger return nipple. I've got to change that because I'm actually going to be running a proper feed line now. But yeah, so I want to basically grind this down and make sure that it's got a enough that the hole that's already in it doesn't go too deep, and I can grind it so it's flat. And the reason I need to do that is because on the side where the hole is now, oh, be careful there. On the side where the hole is now, if you look, the hole is really close to the edge here. If I start drilling out that hole, it's just going to break right through the edge. So I got to try to grind this down a bit to a flat spot so I can drill it out, because if you actually look, the fitting we're putting in is pretty close to the size of that. So obviously we'll Loctite it in, we'll drill it out closer, and we'll tap it. And it's got just enough room, I think it'll be okay, and it shouldn't blow out under boost, I wouldn't think. It's only a small nipple, and it's going to be threaded in quite deep, and there's still probably about just under a 1/4 inch of metal around it. Maybe like an 1/8 inch of metal around it. So yeah, I'm going to grind that down, make sure that the hole's not too deep, and as long as it's not, then we're going to grind it, start drilling it, and tap it, and then I'll show you guys once it's in. Alright guys, so we had to go pretty deep with it, but there's still enough metal to tap it, thankfully. And we just got to the bottom of that. See, I accidentally nicked it here, but I wasn't too concerned about that. Repolished that. I just wanted to make sure I didn't, oh excuse me, I just wanted to make sure I didn't nick any of the housing. And we will have to clean the shavings out before we put it back on. And actually, while this is off, I can give you a better look at that blade I was telling you about. So there it is. It's not bad, but it's bad, but it's not as bad as it could be. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and drill that out for the right size tap, and tap it, and I will show you guys once the actual nipple is in. See you in a few. Alright guys, so you can see I got my tap out and ready for this fitting. This fitting you can get at like Canadian Crappy Tire, or like any of your local hardware stores that sell plumbing and pipe fittings. So it's a 1/8. It's a 1/8 fitting, and you can get different size nipples, all with 1/8 fittings, or 1/8 size threads or whatever. So the tap you want to use for this is going to be a 1/8 27 NTP, and if we look at that, which is this right here, and it tells us our tap drill size, which is 11/32, which is what we have right here. Don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but yeah, anyway, so we got our 11/32s drill bit, our tap, and we're gonna also use a small drill bit to start a pilot hole. So let's go ahead and start drilling and get this tapped. So we got the tap done. It went really well. It went awesome, actually. I don't know if I'll be able to, should be able to get it in there. I can zoom in on it enough. Oh, yep. See the threads there. And the threads actually turned out like really strong and really good, and I didn't actually have to end up drilling out the hole quite as much as I thought I would have to, so that's good. But yeah, now I'll show you guys quick actually. So I got the fitting here. Don't mind my humming. Oh, just had it sitting on there. Take that off there. So what I'll do is put Loctite on this and possibly a seal, but I think Loctite or even some plumber's tape will do the trick. So that's all in, and if you guys go the same route, it's easy. I've tapped lots of stuff, so I'm not really too worried. Just make sure you get that first drill bit centered nice and proper. Like I said, I had a little more wall left than I thought I was gonna. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I got it all cleaned up too already, so I can actually put it on the turbo housing, and the way it sits on the turbo housing is like this. Very gentle. So yeah, we're ready to rock. Just got to order that new fin for the turbo, which I should be able to order within the next couple weeks. Get that in, and that thing will be ready to go for this year. And I'll get a rebuild kit just in case it ends up needing one of those. But yeah, it's got a vacuum nipple, which will be nice now because that'll kind of tuck the line out of the way and I won't have lines running everywhere. The only one I'll need is going to my boost gauge from my intake manifold, so that's no big deal. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and subscribe, whatever. Everyone always says at the end of these videos. No, I'm just kidding. Have a good one. Subscribe, comment. Let me know if there's anything you guys need help with on yours. Yeah, have a good one.